Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Jackson with Jackson Systems. I appreciate you coming out this close to Christmas and the lovely weather we're having. We've got some really cool products to show you with the ecobee product. And also, before we get started, I turn it over to Jay. If you did not get one of these, just to let you know, we are going to be doing NATE testing coming up next month. So if you're interested, or if you've got anyone back at your office that would like to go through the NATE testing, whether that be the core class or any of the specialty exams, Mike Fulcher, our proctor, will be making sure that happens. So please fill one of these out or get us back to this, get the form back to us if you're interested. And without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jay Kress. He's our regional sales manager with ecobee, and we're excited. We're going to be covering all 4 products this evening, as well as their portal and some of the cool new things that you can do with the ecobee product, whether that be controlling relays and all the different neat features that ecobee is light years ahead with. So without any further ado, we'll turn it over to Jay.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks, Jay.
Appreciate it. So I see a lot of familiar faces. I see there's a lot of familiar names on the webcam. Is it off again?
It's back. It's just glitching.
Great. So for those of you watching at home, hopefully this continues on. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to kind of go through real quick just to give a summary of the product. And I've got some demos up here that we'll walk through. We'll actually link up to them and go through them and be able to answer any questions. And if, Christy, if there's any questions to answer,
chat me online and
so you'll raise your hand and grab my attention.
I sure will.
And what I'll try to do is reply or whatever, re-ask the question and answer it. Okay? Great. So I'm going to kind of go over here and start this PowerPoint.
I need to go for just a second. Get it up. It's all yours. It's all yours.
All set?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I kind of have this very egregious statement here about the best thermostat you'll ever own. And what I'd like you to understand is that we offer products. It's not just a thermostat. It is so much more. It does a lot of things, especially for the contractor. So we'll provide you, as a contractor, quite a bit of value that is not normally seen in a thermostat. So what am I doing here? Here we go. Okay. So mainly, there's a few key things I want everybody to understand. Our thermostat is easy to operate. That's why consumers like it. It's easy to, it can be accessed remotely, which is another reason consumers like it. And when I say remotely, I mean you don't need to be in the space to access your thermostat. You can control it fully from your mobile app on your phone or your iPad or your tablet, from your computer at work or at home or on the road, any web browser. It's simple to install. This is great for a contractor. Okay, it really is easy to install. I don't have to have any Cat 5e cable to run to this thing to be on the internet. We're using everyday technology. Okay, we're using Wi-Fi to communicate for the thermostat. The reason we do that is because you, as contractors, deal with 24-volt low voltage control language using thermostat wire. Most of you don't have Cat 5e cable and all sorts of RJ45 jacks and all that kind of stuff, right? So the idea is we're using the technology you do every day, which is the thermostat wire and thermostat on-off R, WYC, etc. And then we're also using Wi-Fi as our communication with the internet. Wi-Fi is the most publicly used, vetted, secure wireless internet or wireless communication protocol really in the world. It is something that's used by pretty much everybody. You're using it right now in this classroom. Most people use it at home. It's used at your office. It's something that all of us are using sometime or another every day. And the big result though for the consumer is, and the contractor, it's going to save you money and time. It's going to save you money in a lot of different ways. It's going to save that end user money on the energy savings. And it's also going to save the contractor time and money, because your time is money. Okay? So a few things about it. We get a lot of response that it's easy to see. We have easy menus for the user and for the contractor. We have these programming wizards that allow you to walk through the setup on the touchscreen version. The Wi-Fi allows easy internet access, and we automatically update the software. About every 4 to 6 months we push out a major update of software. It's done automatically, so there's no interaction required by you or your customer to do that. No buttons to click, no downloading to wait on or whatever else. It just takes place, usually in the middle of the night when you're not even realizing it, and 30 seconds or so, it's done. So remote access comes in a couple different ways. One of them is via the internet using a browser. So there's a browser for the residential stats, and there's a separate browser for, or I should say portal, for commercial stats, and another one for contractors. And I'll get a little more in detail on that. The idea is you just go to the website, click on to ecobee.com, access your thermostat straight through your account. If you have a mobile app for your phone or your tablet, etc., then we have those as well. We've got them for all the major platforms, and we'll probably have one for the new Windows applications as well. So we have two products that I'm going to go over. But basically, the Wi-Fi antenna is right inside the thermostat face. It sits on the wall. Same place as your temperature and humidity sensors are. Just hooks up to your internet right there, right to your router, goes out on the internet, hooks up to the ecobee servers. We pull down weather data from that as well. So you're not required to have an outdoor sensor to do any sort of weather or ambient condition controls. That would be for humidification control, heat pumps, and or economizer enthalpy control. So really simply, it's a thermostat, folks. You'd install the thermostat, you hook it up, boom, you're done. There's nothing major, earth-shattering or anything that needs to be done here. I know it may seem different for a lot of people because it is a little different than other stuff, but you'll see it's pretty simple. A few things I want to make sure everybody understands. It's also included in this, just the thermostat, but we're pulling down weather data from the internet. We find the 3 closest weather stations to your location and triangulate that or average that for where you're at, and we get you the 5-day weather forecast along with it. And that's available on the thermostat, on your app, on your portal, etc. It's also a data logging function. So we'll log on our servers all the data we extract from your thermostat over 15 months. So there's always 15 months of data previous. So you can always go back as far as 15 months to look at what's been happening. Everything we're controlling, everything we're measuring is stored there, even the weather data. And you can also download this into a spreadsheet, and I'll show you how that works. On the touchscreen version, it's more complex as far as the wiring, and so we provide you a wiring description right on the thermostat, and that's always retrievable right on the thermostat. I'll show you how that works. You can always call our customer support. I've been told that our customer support is in the top echelon, is not surpassed by anybody, at least not our competitors. You can call us anytime between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, with a number that I'm going to show later on. It's on all of our literature. It's on our website. It's 8779-ecobee. And that will get you in touch with an HVAC professional sitting in Toronto who's going to answer your questions. They're more knowledgeable about HVAC and our product than they are about internet and computer stuff. They're not computer guys. It's not a call center. You're calling techs like yourself in the field. They've had time in the field. They've had a lot of time doing refrigeration, plumbing, HVAC, controls, etc. And last but not least, when you're getting someone to try a product, there is a 14-day guarantee. If they really just hate this, we'll give you your money back. I've taken one back in 2.5 years. So just to reiterate some things I'll go over, you don't need to run any extra wires or cables to use our thermostat. It's designed to be used in a retrofit application with the wires that are already in place. There's no codes or dip switches. You don't need to pull the thing off the wall and flip a switch and put it back on. There's no codes in the manual. Do I do a C06? What's the D105, 65, 43, etc., etc.? None of that's in a manual. In fact, you probably don't even need the manual to set the thermostat up. You don't need to own a computer or use a computer to install or operate the thermostat. All you need is a web browser from remote access. No software to download or install. No disks, no thumb drives, none of that. And then there's no contracts or added fees. We're not charging for any of this. It's embedded in the cost of the product for the life of the product. It's always supported. So we've got some things for the future. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time with this. Just know that there's a huge roadmap for the future, and we're constantly adding and developing and expanding. We're probably using 15% of the capacity of the platform that we have right now. So much like a lot of other stuff that you get to deal with every day, it's constantly growing and expanding, and we're all set to do that without having to change out a bunch of hardware. So I'm going to go over our four main products here, and you'll see that we've got some designations: SMART and EMS. And the SMART indicates our residential line, and EMS stands for Energy Management System, and that's for our commercial product line. So we have two platforms for software, the SMART and the EMS, and then we have two hardware platforms. There's the touchscreen thermostat, which you're familiar with, and then about 9 months ago we came out with this SI model. It's a simpler version, a little sportier, less cup holders, etc. So here's the two platforms, the touchscreen and then the SI, which is a button interface. So this has a touchscreen, fully interactable. This is just an output display screen with buttons to move up and down, much like some of the other products you're used to seeing out there. It's a little less costly. So with this one again, touchscreen navigation, has an equipment interface that allows us to use 4-wire connection here. 4-wire connection that can do 4 stages heat, 2 cool, multiple accessories, multiple inputs and outputs. The touchscreen version has IAQ capabilities, so we can run humidification, dehumidification, ventilation, and on the commercial side we can do a lot of other accessories. And then we have remote power available as well. So if you don't want to use a transformer on the unit, you can use an external power source. And this remote sensor module allows you additional inputs. Whereas the SI model, residentially, has no accessories, no accessory outputs, no accessory inputs. Strictly button navigation. It's a direct connect right to the unit. So you have one part, and I'll go into more details on that.
So are you saying it just wires like a regular thermostat then?
Right. Yep. So if you got 5 wires out of the wall, like this one that's on the wall over here, if you want to pull that off and put ours on it, you're set to go. So really, the SI model is a replacement model, and this is more of a retrofit with new systems. So if you only have 4 wires, and I'll talk about how to really differentiate those in a bit more. HVAC only here on the SI model. The touchscreen version can do IAQ functionality. Okay? So let's talk about the touchscreen, the fact that it has an equipment interface. So when you buy the thermostat, you've got them up here set up for me nice. So both the SMART and the EMS touchscreen have a large box, and inside that box will be an equipment interface and a user interface. And these are connected, hardwired, 4 wires in the wall. Right? So if you've got cooling in the space, you've got at least 4 18-gauge wires in the wall, and then they can be connected. I want to do that again. So then this is the equipment interface that we've got up here. And it's 24-volt power. It's got 2 little terminals here on the left. 24-volt power right off your transformer unit. Or you can use an additional power source if you want to. We could do 3 to 4 heat depending on the applications, a couple of cooling if you need, and 1 to 3 accessories depending on how many of these we've set up. So what we have are some relays that are configurable for multiple uses. So you'll see multiple labels. You'll see R and W1 will have an aux on it, and W2 will have, or the W1 has OB and the W2 has an aux on it. And then there's only one Y, so if you're going to do 2 cooling, you're going to use one of these accessory relays, which are labeled, which is why we have the wiring description. Okay, so as far as the accessories, there's 3 available on the residential product, and there's 6 available on the commercial. You see that? So we can do economizer control, we can do a user-defined output, and we can do an occupancy output, and I'll explain those more as we go. And the last thing is we have 2 dry contact inputs. These are inputs for alarms or just notifications. What kind of things do you think that might be? What can you use for dry contact input? Something you want to monitor? Any ideas?
float in my sump pump.
There you go, float in your sump pump. That would send you an email alert that your sump pump had failed and your sump was overflowing.
Emergency drain pans.
Emergency drain pan, there you go. The wet switch in the secondary drain pan, or the condensate pump with a failure alert on it. What else?
Discharge air.
A discharge air contact relay?
Contact on.
Like a differential pressure switch to tell you that your fan wasn't working anymore? Might be
Sure.
another one. That might be another one. There you go. I think that's what you're getting at.
No, I think what Tom meant is he'd like to be able to monitor the discharge air so he can see how well the unit was functioning.
Oh. So that might be with remote sensor module. And I'll go over here in a second. Yeah, here we go. So this remote sensor module allows me to add 4 more inputs. So the standard unit we went over has got a temperature and humidity sensor inside the user interface. And then the board has 2 more inputs for dry contact. So in my house, I've got a wet switch in my secondary drain pan, and I have a float in my sump, in my base of my cellar. They'll send me an email if they're triggered. Even if you have an alarm contact on your furnace, maybe you've got a geothermal unit that has its own board with alarm contact in it for enunciator or something, you could tie that in as well. This module here allows 4 more inputs and can be added to the bottom of the panel. So this is an accessory that you pay for extra. It's not required, but it can be used. And you can use it for inputs, and it's a mixture of any of these. So these inputs are universal. They can be set up in the stat, following the menus, as to what you want to do with them. Are we using them for temperature, for humidity, dry contact input? So this might be, maybe you have additional floats or sensors or door switches. Maybe I've got a humidity sensor or 2 I want to attach. Maybe I have some additional temperature sensors, like in my discharge air temperature or return air. Or perhaps I've got a space attached to my area that I'm not controlling that I want to monitor, like a humidor or a wine cellar or something else in a nice custom home. Maybe a greenhouse. My in-laws have a greenhouse attached to their house. We're going to put a temperature and humidity sensor in there so they can monitor that when they're traveling around the world. We use existing sensors. So this is anyone's 10K ohm RTDs or 0 to 10 volt inputs. So if you've got an existing or you want to buy off the shelf, a Johnson humidity sensor or a Honeywell or Tecmar temperature sensor, we've got them already, several of them actually already embedded in the menu. So it's really easy. Anybody's stuff that we can use as long as they follow those parameters, and those are very common. And then you can do all these things with them. You can use them for temperature or humidity averaging. You can do the remote sensing, as I mentioned, maybe some additional space, remote monitoring, outdoor temperature sensing. So if you don't want to use the weather data from the internet, or you don't have the internet attached to this thermostat, you can use an outdoor temperature sensor for ambient control. Doesn't happen very often, but it's there. So here's the sensor menu. These are sensors that are already embedded in the menu of the thermostat. So these were picked because they were the most commonly stocked by all of our distributors. But if you don't have that one in the model or in the menu, that your model isn't in there, then you can put in the parameters for the operation. I'll go over that detail in a bit. So we have an alternate power source that if you choose not to use the transformer off your furnace, you can use a standalone transformer, or you can use a power supply that plugs right in here. This device here, it's got a little jack, plugs in here, and now you're powering your thermostat. So that's just an added feature. If I was putting this into a remote space that's not very occupied, maybe it's a vacation home, maybe it's an outdoor building for telecommunications that's never occupied, and if I use the transformer off my HVAC unit and that transformer fails, I'm going to lose the heating and cooling. I'm also going to lose communication because my thermostat's dead, right? So maybe I want to use the power source. So it's just an option. You could even use that power source on a battery backup if you wanted to. So it gives you flexibility. I'm going to skip over the smart plugs, but we have available controls in all of our stats to do wireless control of other devices. And in the future, you'll see a lot more of this. requires a module, some accessories, and there you go. So that hasn't been rolled out completely yet. So I mentioned the hardware. We've got the touchscreen version and the button SI version, right? So the SI is really simple. I haven't really gone over it too much here. It is a direct connect. It has a back plate that you wire right up to your unit. It's got your R, your C, your W, your Y, etc. Normal thermostat that you deal with every day. Pop this on and it'll power up and you're ready to go. Out of the box, both of these, right out of the box, internet ready. Internet ready, internet ready, internet ready, internet ready. Okay? No gateways required, no extra wires pulled or anything. Total retrofit. So we have two software platforms then. That's what I talk about when I have the model designations. We have the Smart, which is our residential product, and the EMS, which is our commercial product. And they use totally different software on the thermostats, and they use totally different software online. So the residential product is really designed for family. It's for home. It's what you would put in your house. If it's not a family in a home, it's a commercial application. If it's a church, a small business, a rental facility, a college dormitory, college rental homes, etc. If it's not the family that owns that house, then it's got to be a commercial one. It should be a commercial one, and I'll show you why. That usually has to do with multiple users, multiple accessibility, etc. So one of the major differences, the residential one, again, for residential applications, you get one user account. You can have a bunch of thermostats on that account, but it's one user account. And I'll show you my account, and I've got about a dozen stats on it. And I get email alerts. Any of those inputs I told you, I can get an alert, like a wet switch trips, high temp, low temp, I'll get an email alert. On this one, for commercial applications, it's multiple users. I can have an unlimited number of user accounts. So think about your bank. When you go to your online banking and get on your bank account, you go to thatbank.com, here's your username and password, and you can look at all your accounts, but it's just you. If you and your spouse share an account, you both have the same username and password. But think about what the bank does. The bank has all those accounts. When you call the bank, that person on the phone can look at your account, and can look at somebody else's account, and can look at a bunch of other accounts, right? That's the way this is set up. So now you as a contractor could put all of your customers' commercial spaces on a portal and access all of them and control all of them. So with the residential one, the homeowner has control. The contractor can have some monitoring capability, but no control. With the commercial one, you can have control. And I'll get more into detail on that. There's also automation built into the stack, which means I can use any of the inputs, temperature, humidity, CO2, dry contact, any of the inputs I have on this stack can be used to trigger multiple actions or multiple automation actions. So an example would be, put a smoke detector in the supplier plenum. What do you want to have that do? Well, obviously you want to have some sort of alarm feature, maybe even send out an email. Probably turn off the HVAC. Maybe turn on an exhaust fan. So we can do all that stuff. Another option would be supply air sensor. Put that supply air sensor, as Tom brought up, and maybe you want to use that to trigger the fan based on that temperature. If the temperature coming off of a heating coil is too low, turn off the fan. Okay. We also have 12-month counter events, so I can take that portal here and put events in. So maybe I've got, let's see, talk about this space here. So Jackson Systems isn't open 365 days a year, right? You've got a normal schedule. Monday through Friday you're here, the weekends you're gone, usually. What do you do on those 10 holidays a year? So think about a bank. They've got 17 holidays a year, 17 days during the week when their thermostat, their 5.2 or 7.11 scheduled thermostat, 5.11, says they've got a scheduled day to be occupied. They could put in a calendar event ahead of time and say, these 17 days will be in the unoccupied mode. So think about the bank branch that you deal with all the time. And on Thanksgiving, was that bank branch, do you think all the thermostats were in the unoccupied mode? I bet 9 out of 10 of them were in the occupied mode, and they were heating or cooling that space accordingly. So there's major savings to be had. That's part of the savings. And you can also give each of these users multiple security access levels. So as you think about multiple locations, and I'll go into more detail on this, you can add, or you can restrict individual users and how they can access those thermostats. So what I tell people is, as far as the EMS here, it's really an energy management system or a building management system. We can give you 80% of the functionality of a hardwired, computer-based energy management system in a building for about 20% of the cost, because it's all thermostat-based. Because what we're doing is we're using the internet, the communications bus, to bring all those thermostats together to share information and to send that out to all the stats without having to run any wire. Okay. This last one here, just to point out, we do have a personal use program. So if you have not purchased one for your home and you'd like to try one out, we have a discount program for that. It's a form you fill out, put your credit card in it, send it in, and we'll take care of it. And then this is the tech support line here, 877-9-ecobee. Really easy to remember. Call that anytime between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Okay? So what I'm going to do is go through some tutorials or some simulators. And I think what I'm going to start off with is the portal, or what you can look at when you're online. Christy, can you put in my email address here? It's j@ecobee.com, jay@ecobee.com. And then the password is my cell phone number. It's 317-289-2252. So this is a dummy account that I'm going to have you look at. You can access this for your own enjoyment if you want to play around and see what it's like to experience it. Again, the username, you go to ecobee.com, there's a login button in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll see there's a username and a password required. The username is my email address, jay@ecobee.com, and my cell phone number is the password, 317-289-2252. And you'll see there's 3 tabs across the top. We have a tab here for the residential smart portal, for the residential stats. We've got another one here for the EMS commercial portal, commercial stats. The one in the middle is for you, for contractors, to be able to manage and monitor the residential stats. Only the residential ones. The commercial one allows you access anyway. Okay? So I want to show you what we can do with those. And you'll see right at the top, I've got this alert. It says, time to have your HVAC system serviced. And it's got a contractor's name, phone number, and their logo. Granted, it's my logo. It's this stat right here. And it says right on the front, time to have your HVAC. It's the same message as here. So this is a key benefit for contractors. Think about this. Every time there's an alert, like a reminder, filter change, HVAC service, high temperature, low temperature, high humidity, low humidity, no heat, no cool, or anything else that you attach to it, it's going to generate an alert or a reminder, right? That customer is going to see that reminder 4 times. They're going to see it on the thermostat face. They're going to see it on their portal as a big orange band. They're going to get it at an email or multiple emails, and they're going to get it on their mobile app, either on their phone or their tablet. So I'm going to see if I can pull up that phone. I should be able to see that alert. So you as a contractor are going to be able to touch your customer 4 times with your information, your phone number, etc., etc. And so by using this portal here, you can manage all of that. And I'll show you how that works. But this is one of the key values that you have with ecobee that you don't get with anybody else. So with this, I can see my weather. I can pull up my 7-day, 24-hour-a-day calendar schedule, and I can make adjustments to it. So somebody's been messing with this one for me, so I'm going to change this. You see that this is was all dark in a sleep time, and somebody put a home time in. So I'm going to change that back to the sleep. I just highlighted that, click on sleep, and you'll see this will populate again, and this will be my sleep time again. And you can see my away settings here, 62 to 85. right here. And that didn't take. Why did that take? You'll see there's a little red indicator here telling you what the current time and date is. Is your internet connection still up?
Yep.
Okay. Then we've got calendars over here. I can add vacation events. I can change temperatures. So which thermostat are we on right now? Smart Demo 2. It's this one right here. This one with the alert, right? So I want to say, remind me later. So this stat right now is set for 62, I think. It's all right. Yeah, set temperature 62, and if you can see this, it says 62. So I can change temperature here. I want to move to 70. It's going to set to 70, and eventually this will switch back to 70, depending on the speed of the internet connection I've got. It'll adjust. I can also do things like turn on and off my humidification settings, change my humidifier, turn it on, turn it off. If I want to turn my fan on and things like that, I can do that as well. Put the fan in the on position, and it's going to have a hold that pops up. The sort of settings you see on the thermostat. So basically, you're able to do all the same things you can do on the thermostat face from the internet. You don't get that with the other manufacturers. Let's see what else we want to look at. The data logging function I showed you. So we have something called Home IQ. I'm going to switch to another stat here. So what you'll see up in the corner here, I've got this drop-down list. This drop-down list gives me all my thermostats that I have connected to this portal. So you're not restricted to just one stat per portal. It's multiple stats. So I can jump around to different ones. We have some reporting and some energy analysis we'll do for you, and then a graph that tells you what's going on in your space. So I'm tracking everything I'm controlling, everything that I'm measuring is tracked here in data format. Okay? So temperatures, heating set points, outdoor temperature, indoor temperature, etc. Pretty huge, huh? There's 3 days I can look at here. I can always go back and look at other times in the past. So if I want to look at July 4th and see how hot it was in St. Louis, which is where the thermostat is, I can see it. It's off the scale. Pick a different time. Pick last month. There we go. So here's the outdoor temperature. The indoor temperature is this green line here. My cooling line is the dotted line there, and the dotted line there is the heating. So, you see there's a lot of information here. I can even download this into a spreadsheet, and I can go into 3-day, 1 month, 3-month settings. So pick whatever I want. So this is a big part of the value that we have here. And the last thing as far as the consumer can do is a lot of like their reminders and their alerts and all the preference settings. So things that are important for them, like how long their hold time is, what the brightness is on the screen, am I using my smart recovery, am I staggering start times, etc. All that stuff can be set up here. You can do it on the screen of the thermostat, but you have to go through all these different menus, or you can do it right here. So, options. Let me show you the residential contractor portal. And this is for the contractor to be able to manage all their stuff. Rick, are you still using this? Mm-hmm. Good. So what this allows you to do is look at all these thermostats. So when you set up your account, you'll go to ecobee.com. I'll show you where we can do this. Actually, this is the next. At ecobee.com, there's a contractor's link in the upper right-hand corner. There's a create an account link here, and that will give you the ability to go ahead and put a bunch of information in. Your company name, your email address, all your contact information right here, right? So once you've done that, you're going to have an account portal. You'll go to log in and you'll see all your information right here. This is the information that's going to show up on the thermostat. It's the information that's going to show up on the website. It's going to be information. Anytime you install a thermostat, your customer is going to get an opportunity to rate your installation. And your name's going to pop up there in a list. So you want to make sure that you accurately put that information in your account. And then your logo will be there. So this is something you can download your logo off your computer and put it right here, and it'll always be resident on those thermostats. Once you've done that, when you go to install a thermostat, you put the serial number of the thermostat right here on the portal, and now you'll be able to view it. You will be linked to that thermostat, and you'll be able to pull up this map, which will show you the location of your thermostats, what the status is as far as connectivity or alerts, and then you'll be able to make some adjustments. Okay, so here we go. So here's a Google map showing me all the thermostats that I've got registered here. Obviously, if you were just doing a small area like Indianapolis or so, you'll have a lot smaller map. If I go to look at a thermostat and click on it, it automatically takes me to that thermostat, and I can see what kind of equipment is attached to it, air conditioner or furnace. And I can even pull up any alerts that might be there. And the last 3 days of graphing. So think about this. You're going to get a message from your customer saying no heat or no cool. And now you can go look at the last 3 days of operation. So Rick, I seem to recall there was a heat pump customer you had who had some issues with his heat pump. And it'd have been kind of nice to be able to look at this and see how many times they're calling the heat pump and the auxiliary heat, et cetera, before we ran out to look at that house. So here, again, all the things we're controlling, everything we're measuring, monitoring, right here at a glance. You're not controlling anything of your customers. You're just looking at the last 3 days of operation. You're looking at any of their alerts and reminders. My stats. So I should be able to look at any alerts or any other reminders for those thermostats. So if there's been any alerts in the past, like change your filter, change your filter, change your filter, and your customer says, I've had a problem, I can't keep the temperature up in my house, and it keeps tripping out on this high limit, et cetera, So think about this. Is your time best spent driving out to a customer's place, flipping a switch, or making some minor adjustment, and then driving all the way back, and then you got to charge them whatever you're charging them for the hour-and-a-half service call? Or would you rather take that time and go spend it replacing someone's compressor or furnace or something else that's more profitable? And then just take care of your other customer with a phone call, hey, could you switch this? Or maybe give me the username and password to your thermostat and I'll make the adjustments accordingly. Or hey, you could change the filter. Maybe I'll send you a filter, I'll drop one off so you can change it out. So it allows you the ability to be able to manage those customers a little bit better and manage your time in the field. All right. So let's click back out now. Let's talk about the commercial applications. So this portal on the right, this tab on the right says EMS. This is going to be a different portal altogether. So if I'm using these two stats right here, they both reside on the same portal. You have similar software in them. You'll see a portal that looks like this. And pretty soon you're going to start seeing some folders pop up here. So think about how you manage the files on your hard drive on your computer. So is anybody here that never messes with their computer hard drive? I mean, anybody ever not move files around? Anybody not know what I'm talking about? You want to admit that? Okay. All right. So the idea is we're going to use a series of. So when this wakes up, we'll be able to grab a folder and expand it out. So you'll be able to identify folders and name them, whatever you want to name them, based on what the customer might be, where their location might be. So when I've got mine set up is with the state of Indiana, and the state of Ohio, and the state of Missouri, and then I've got different cities in each state, and then multiple stats in each of the cities. Wow. So what that allows you to do then is to go in and access groups of thermostats. So that if I have, let's think about this. Let's say I was a bank and I had 15 branches. I'm getting to go to talk to a bank tomorrow who's got about 50 branches throughout the state. And those branches each have multiple rooftops or split systems in them. So think about this. If I'm the owner or facilities manager for that bank and I want to manage all the thermostats to be off on Christmas Day, with 2 clicks on this, I can turn all the thermostats to be in the unoccupied mode. Or maybe I've got a different holiday that's state specific and I've got some locations in Ohio that Ohio has some holiday that they're going to close down for the day, but not in Indiana. So I could then go to the Ohio stores and put them in the unoccupied mode, but just the Indiana ones would stay in the occupied mode. And then I'd also be able to go in, here we go. So I can expand all these, and if you're playing around with this, you want to look at it, the important thing to remember is there's an arrow next to each folder, and so to click on the arrow, it expands it to the next level. So here you can see the states. So as I expand Indiana, you'll see different cities. And so when I go into Greenwood, you'll see 3 thermostats pop up here. And the names, they're named, right? You name the thermostat, front office, back office, whatever. Here's these EMS demos. So I can go in and I can look at each thermostat individually, or I can look at groups of them. And I can make adjustments individually or in groups. So just by clicking the little button next to the stat, I can now go in. Remember the program we looked at on the residential? It was a 4 event per day program graph. This one is a 2 event per day, which I can add additionals if I want to, but default is 2 a day. So I can make adjustments to this just like I did on the residential one. And that'll be for the thermostat that I identified. Remember the one I clicked the box next to? So I just made that change. But if I want to make changes to multiple thermostats, I've got a universal button, and I can click this one. And so that's all the thermostats that are in the Greenwood files. If I go up another level, I could change it by state or whatever else. And these folders are just ones I named. I just made them, I added a folder, named it whatever I want to name it. It's really easy. If I want to add another folder here, click the add button, you see it pop up, I name it whatever I want to name it, and I can start populating it with different thermostats. I can take thermostats, click on it, and I can even move them into different folders and move them around, just like you would files on your hard drive, right? It's pretty intuitive if you're using stuff every day. Here's the calendar functions I was telling you about. The ability to go in and click on a thermostat or a group of them and add an event, pick a time, a date, a start time, figure out whether I'm occupied or unoccupied, what my temperatures are going to be, and then you'll see that populate here on today's date on the right. And you can do that 12 months in advance. Churches, they love this. Churches are highly unoccupied. They have these huge energy bills. They're running on thermostats. They want to be able to organize all their energy usage. They've got different people coming and going at different times of day. So then they can have different events they can put in. They'll have a normal schedule, a weekly schedule, but they've got Cub Scout meeting on Thursday night, some other Bible study group on another night. They could put those in on the calendar based on when they are. And then Easter, Christmas, different events they've got coming up, they can stick them on different times. Typically, on the churches that we've done, the office manager has an account to be able to jump on and make all those adjustments. Has a limited functionality, but still has access to all thermostats. Let me show you how that works. I can go to this Users tab, and I can identify where I want to work and add and subtract users. So if I'm clicking the state of Indiana, these are all the users that I've attached to here. So if I want to add a new user, I go here. I'll add this email address of that user. They will get an email that will invite them to add their new account, make their own password up, and they'll be able to make whatever adjustments I've given them access to. So I can click on and off different accessibility. And that's for that folder that I've identified. So when that person logs in using their new username and password, they'll only be able to look at the thermostats that have been identified in this folder, which would be those thermostats right there. So they'll only see them. They won't see all the other ones listed everywhere else. So think about it. You as a commercial contractor, you could have a different folder for each customer, give those customers accounts. You'd have full access to all of them. So when you get this call in August 1st saying, hey, we turned on the air conditioning this morning and it's still 95 degrees in the space and it's 100 and some outside, you can go on and say, you know what, I'm looking at this graph and I see that you didn't turn the air conditioning on until noon, and it's 2:30 and it's going to be a while before it cools down. I can monitor it. We'll make sure it's not a problem, but it looks like everything's working okay. If there's a problem tomorrow morning, we'll send a truck out. But save them hassle and save you the hassle, because that's going to be a time when you're most busy and you're wanting to manage your time for something that's more profitable, right? So that's the benefits. Again, all those preference changes, all those things that we looked at on the residential stat as far as your temperature range and other things, those are all available for adjustment as well. All the stuff that's going to be done on the thermostat here can be done right here. That's critical, especially on the commercial world. So think about this. I'm talking to a college right now, a university, a small school. They've got a bunch of duplexes off campus that they rent out to their students. They own all of them. They have simple furnaces in them. There's about 50 buildings. Each building has a couple stats, one on each side. The students are renters. You'd think that'd be a residential application, and it is, but it's also a commercial application. So by using this system and our commercial stat, the school can now manage and turn down the thermostats for Christmas break when all the students are gone, and have them set at a lower setting, an unoccupied setting, so that they're not overheating the space and spending thousands of extra dollars that they don't need to spend. Everybody's looking to save money, and this is a great way to do it. Our systems typically have about a 6-month payback period. Here's something I want to point out. It's on both stats, but mostly it's critical on the commercial one. Got a cool random start delay. I can adjust a time frame that multiple stats would start. So if I go back and I select several thermostats, maybe I've got 5, 20, 50 in a building. I've got a church in Missouri that has 43 thermostats. It's a 100,000 square foot church, big Baptist church. A guy told me this week that his demand rate, on his peak demand rate by his electric utility, the utility came out and dropped their rate structure 13% because they shaved their peak by using this function. So what they've got is 43 stats. So when they go from unoccupied to occupied now, in a 60-minute time period, all the stats that he's identified, instead of all coming on about the same time, they stagger. And so there's at least a minute between every one of those compressors that comes on in that building Sunday morning. That's significant savings. He's told me that this summer alone, they saved $13,000 in electric bills over last summer. That pays for about a quarter of what they spent for the system, just from the summer. Now he's got other savings by being able to manage the systems, time savings, etc. Less nuisance calls. The whole thing is paying for itself in less 6 months. All right, so we had several questions in the off time. One of them was just verification of the username and password to get on the My Dummy account. It is my email address, which is j@ecobee.com. It's jay@ecobee.com, E-C-O-B-E-E. And the cell phone number is my password. It's 317-289-2252. Okay? One of the other questions was about getting your company name printed on the thermostats. And we don't do that unless you want to buy 1,000 thermostats. It's very difficult to print on here. I know Jackson's tried to print on there. It won't work. So the options are, as I mentioned, you already have your name, phone number, logo, everything else embedded in the software. Every time there's an alert or anything, your customers hit 4 times, remember? They see it on the thermostat face, they get it on their phone app, they're going to get it on their web portal, and they're going to get an email. And every time they get touched by that, it has that information on it. So that's actually more critical than having it on your thermostat, because your customer is probably not looking at the thermostat when they're having a problem or if they're at the office or whatever else. Okay? The other thing is we have these Gila Skins that you can have customized to wrap on the thermostat. You can have that customized with your logo name if you wanted to. You can have it white with your name on it, your phone number, etc., however you want to do it. So it's right here on our website. You can go to our website, go to the accessories button at the very bottom, and look for more information on here. And you can just buy them one at a time or buy them in large clumps. Okay? So homeowners do this already. We came out with these very recently. I know we've already sold about 1,000 of them, just individual ones to customers. I don't know what the contractor take on these is. Those are just by end users. And then the last question was internet and Wi-Fi connectivity. So I just want to touch base on that real quick. So Wi-Fi is a wireless internet connection. Instead of this big cable here that Christy has hooked into her computer, we could be using a wireless connection called Wi-Fi, right? So what that means is instead of the hardwired connection into your internet, it's a wireless connection. So there's a wireless router. And I'm sure a lot of people think, okay, this is pretty obvious, but it's not that obvious to a lot of people. So much like when you go to your house and you want to click into the phone line, right? You have a phone, you plug it into the wall, you're on the phone. I can talk to the phone and hear the dial tone, right? Or I can have a cordless phone. And I can take that cordless set and tie it into the phone line, and then I can take my phone that's wireless talking to the set, right? Same thing. So all you need to have is internet in the space, and you can buy a wireless Wi-Fi router to talk to all your devices. So if you buy internet from your cable company or your phone company, DSL or cable internet, it probably comes with a Wi-Fi modem already, free. If you don't have one of those free ones, you might call them up and ask them, because they want you to use more internet. So the more you use, if you're not using it because you don't have Wi-Fi, they'll probably give you a router. Now where I live, I do not have DSL or cable available. It's just not there. So my internet comes from my cell phone provider. I have a cell phone modem, a USB modem, that's plugged in the back of my Wi-Fi router. And I pay like 20 bucks a month to have this additional device on my phone plan. And that brings all my internet from my house. And it's Wi-Fi broadcast throughout the whole house. And it goes pretty far outside too. I can go out on my porch and sit out there on my computer and work if I want to. Okay? Another option is satellite internet. You can buy satellite internet. It comes into the house, it's hardwired in the house, and you can get a Wi-Fi router right there that's broadcasted around the house. Okay? So it's actually very simple to get. And it's very inexpensive because you can go to Best Buy or Home Depot or any place like that and buy a Wi-Fi router for 25 to 50 bucks. It's actually the cheapest, easiest aspect of what we're talking about. Any questions about that? So are there any other questions online there?
I just want to know if we could imprint
Nope.
these.
No. Okay.
Just out of curiosity, why did you choose such a material so much different than all the others?
It's recycled.
It's recycled,
Mhm.
and that's why it's...
Yep. So, let's kind of look at the thermostat face and how it works, how to set it up and everything else. So I'm going to start with the touchscreen, which is the basic unit that most people are familiar with, and it requires the most discussions probably. So one of the things right off the bat is, how is this thermostat going to be connected? So what we have for you as an installer is what we call an installation wizard. So when I first get to the thermostat, it's off. I'm going to click on this More button in the corner, go into my Settings menu, and scroll down to the Installation Settings. And you see at the top, there's an Installation Wizard. So much like when you load new software on your computer or buy a new phone or whatever, they've got software that automatically walks you through a series of questions and sets up your stuff for you. That's what we're going to do. So if I click on this installation wizard, first off it's going to ask me, am I using a heat pump, or yes or no? I'm going to skip that. Let's just go, we're not using a heat pump. Ask you for a heat source. Let's say I'm using a furnace, gas. Then it asks me for a number of stages. Let's just say it's a single stage. One stage of cooling. And I'm not using any accessories. But here's where I would identify which of my accessories I'm using for humidifier, ventilator, or whatever else. We've got 3 accessories, and you'll see the first one's number 1. So here we're going to select what we're going to do with number 1. I'm going to skip it. And I got 3 of those, and I'm going to blow by. We also have the sensor inputs, remember? The provide contact inputs for alarms that I can attach to. Here is where we would enable them. To enable them, I'm going to name it. So I'm not going to name this, I'm just going to skip it. I don't need to mess with that. And I've got 2 of them. I'm going to skip it. I can then enter in, enable the 3262 installer code to keep my end user from making any changes if I want to. I'm going to skip that. What do I have at the end here is a wiring description. Remember I talked about this board? So here it's telling me that for a furnace, and this is pretty intuitive. Okay, we're all HVAC people. AC 1, that's on Y. My heat stage 1, that's on the W. I got my fan on G. What else do I need to know? Nothing else is connected, right? I didn't connect anything to these accessory relays. I didn't connect anything to the inputs for whatever. And I've got these 4 wires here for thermostat. It's a D plus, D minus, 12 volt ground right down here in the corner. And if I take one of these and look at the back of it, it's got D plus, D minus, 12 volt and ground on the back of it. So I'm just going to use 4 of the wires right in the wall to hook that up. Pretty simple, right? Any questions about that? This is always resident on the thermostat. So once I've clicked done, I've set that up. I can go back in and look at that wiring diagram just to verify that I've wired it up right. Now, let's do this again. What are other most common installations that some of you might use?
Humidifier.
Humidifier, okay, we'll do that. What else?
Gas furnace with heat pump.
Okay, so a heat pump with fossil fuel backup. Okay, all right, let's do that. So I'm going to use air-to-air heat pump. Okay, so we're going to use a geothermal unit, and we're going to have gas backup. How many stages of heat pump we're going to have? Did you see this window before? No, I didn't either, because it wasn't there because we didn't pick heat pump. Okay, it's a pretty smart thermostat. So what's the first? Are we doing 1 or 2 stages heat pump?
2.
All right, 2 stages of heat pump. Are we going to energize on O or B when we're cooling?
Energize on cooling.
Okay, so we're going to energize on cooling. All right. We don't have a minimum output temperature because this is geothermal. But if this was an ambient air conditioner, we'd have an ambient switchover point, right? All right. So if I wanted to click on that, I could pick a temperature. But we're not going to do that because this is a geothermal unit. Do I want my heat pump and my auxiliary heat to run simultaneously? If I had electric backup, I might pick yes, but I'm going to pick no because this is a fossil fuel. All right. So I'm done with that. We're going to go to the next button. Now it's going to ask me about forced air backup stages. We got 1 stage furnace here. We could do up to 2.
Let's do 2.
All right, let's pick 2. Do I want my thermostat to call for my fan, or do I want to have the HVAC system do all the fan calling?
Thermostat because it's geo.
Okay, we'll pick that. Wow, you know, right, there we go. Okay. So now we're at these accessory relays, and we talked about humidifier. So we're going to pick a humidifier. Go to the next relay, and we can have a dehumidifier or ventilator. But why does it keep giving me these 2? All right. If anybody looks at one of these, I'm going to read off the top what we have here. So we looked at that wiring diagram. Remember I went through, we had the Y, the W, etc. Did you see a Y2 on there? No, there is not a Y2. So how do I do a second stage of cooling? I'm going to have to pick this. And then auxiliary heat stage 2 here for my last one. And I'm done with my relays. I'll show you what that means in a minute. Now it's asking me how am I going to humidify. Are you doing a vap pad or is it a standalone like a steam humidifier?
Just fan in.
Okay, so it's a vap pad.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to have only when we're heating, right? And then we've got this thing called frost control. I can select my thermostat to pick the humidity setting for my space based on the outside conditions I want to. Or I can just pick a humidity setting and say I want it to be 40% and run. So you have the options. So if we want to turn on the frost control, we've got to identify which of these efficiencies we have on our windows. So we don't have sweat and frost, Jack Frost on the windows. So it asks you some questions there. Now we've got these alarm inputs. We've got a geothermal unit. Is there anything, is it got an alarm output on it? Yes, no? Okay, we'll say no. Anything else anybody has? Condensate pump?
Yeah, you wouldn't have a condensate pump.
Is it going to have like a, do you sell the ones that have the little failure alarm on them?
Sure.
Switches, yeah.
Okay, well, let's do that. Let's pick one of them that's got that, and we're going to name this condensate, C-O-N-D. How's that? Right? So normally sensor's normally open, and when there's an alarm, it's going to close. So I'm going to leave it this way. And we have the option of switching that back and forth. We have another one. We got one more spot. Leave this blank or put something in it. We'll just leave it blank. So now when I go to the end, I've got a new wiring description. It's different. It shows me that my Y is my compressor stage 1, and my W is my heat pump O or B. It's not a W, it's an O or B. So that means my W2 is my auxiliary stage heat of 1. Well, where's all my other stages of heat and cooling? Well, they're down here. So I've got these dry contacts. They're going to close. They're isolated relays. Closed for auxiliary heat stage 2 and compressor stage 2. Which means now I've got to jumper from my R over here out to my unit. Okay? And there's a wiring description, or wiring diagram actually, in the manual. And there's several online. I'll show you where those all are. So now you see, that's how we do two-stage heat, two-stage cool with accessory. But I only was able to use one accessory because I was using the other ones for the heating and cooling. Make sense? Okay. Now that I've set that up and I've wired it all up, how do I test it?
Go to test equipment.
There you go. Go to test equipment, and it's going to allow me to test everything. So I can go to heating, and I can turn on stage 1 and listen to the compressor turn on stage 2, and shut off. I can even turn my fan or my auxiliary heat on, whatever I want to do. So when you click it on, it's going to turn on. When you click it off, turns off. If I leave this here and walk away, after a few minutes, it's going to go back to the normal screen, in which case everything's been shut off. You won't worry about leaving the house with something turned on improperly. You're also not going to be making the thermostat try to think it's going to be in the heat mode when it's 90 degrees outside, or vice versa. Turn on the air conditioning when it's 30 out, right? Who here has been involved with a project that after the installation, the thermostat was set in the wrong setting and caused an issue with the homeowner within a day or so afterwards? Anybody ever do that? I did it on my own. All day. Turn on the heat and wonder why it's extremely hot in the house. It's 80 degrees outside and the air conditioning wasn't on because I had turned the heat on and the floor was really hot. So now I don't have to worry about that. So that's some of the added stuff here. The sensors, this is telling you what my input sensors are. That's the condensate one that we had normally open. There's all kinds of resets and things. So there's also this sort of stuff in here. We're going to get out of this now. I'm going to click this button here. This is the reset button. It takes me back to the home screen. Again, we're still looking at the home screen, but now this thermostat isn't so naked anymore. I can click the details button, and now I can turn on the system. And now you'll see 2 set points. Because I know I've got heating and cooling. I've got 2 set points, and so I've got a heating set point and a cooling set point. And there's a touch screen, so I can move these around all I want. And click on the other one and move it around. You can tap a degree at a time if you want to. Makes it a little easier for the user. So the next step then let's set up the schedule for the user. Click the schedule button. You've got a graph. Shows you a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour schedule. Kind of like what we saw on the web portal, right? You've got sleep, awake, away times, etc. So again, there's a wizard for that. This is for the homeowner, or you can set it up. It's got a factory set, 6 to 8, 8 to 6, 6 to 10, Monday through Friday, and the weekends are home. So the factory schedule is probably fine for 80% of all your customers. But if they want to customize it, they can use the wizard. It's going to ask them really simple questions about when they wake up, when they go to what temperatures they want it to be when they wake up, when they go to work, time that they go to work, come home, temperatures, times, temperatures, and they're done. There's a new schedule. Anybody have any thermostats that are any easier to program than that one? Or you can go online and you can do it online as well. Pretty simple. If I need to go in and edit specific functions, I can do that here. So the last thing, that's the first wizard is for the installation, for the installer. The second wizard is for the programming, and then the last one will be, let's get this thing hooked up on Wi-Fi. So down here in the left-hand corner is a little button that says register, and that's where we go to register the stat or start it up. So first thing it's going to do is going to look for Wi-Fi settings. Make sure the Wi-Fi antenna is on, and it starts broadcasting, looking for all the Wi-Fi. It's going to come up with your network. Click on the one you want. It's going to ask you for a network password if security has been enabled. Put the security password in, whatever that might be. And it's going to start hooking up to ecobee.com, and then it's going to go through a series of questions for you. What's your email address? What do you want your password to be? And then you get an email. Hit the hyperlink on the email, it takes you right to it'll take you right here. The home screen where you have a login. Click on that, you'll put that email and password in that you just put on the thermostat, and voila, there's your thermostat. Pretty simple. So once you've done that, interesting.
Being as you have two different set points, your heating and cooling, does that make it an auto changeover between the two? You don't
I
have to
selected
get
the
it
auto switch over. So if I wanted to be in heating or only, I could go to heat. And then, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Or, for whatever reason, maybe the compressor's dead, go to auxiliary heat only, that's fine too. And it'll tell you, auxiliary heat only. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Any other questions about that? Once you've registered this, this will turn into a little thing that says NA, and it shows weather. And after about 15 minutes, when you put in your location on your portal after you've registered it, it'll locate where the weather is, and this will populate with weather information. And it'll have on it sunny, a cloud, a moon, rain, whatever that is. And you can click on it, and it'll take you into the weather forecast. It'll show you 4 days or 5-day weather forecast. Okay?
Jay, question online.
Yeah.
Do the ecobee stats have adaptive intelligent recovery?
Yes. So let's talk about that. You can turn that on or off. So in the preferences right here, recovery options. Do I want smart recovery on or off during heating or cooling? You can identify whether you want to run with either one or. So they're enabled to be in the smart recovery mode from the factory. So that's a great question, because what gets me to talk about is what this thermostat's doing. So unlike a lot of thermostats which are working in a deadband, and they're differential stats, in other words, they wait till they get to a certain point and they turn off and then they turn on, etc. This thermostat's going to give you a flat line. It's going to watch what's happening in the space. It's going to look at where your set point is and where you are from that set point. How far away you are from it, whether you're moving towards it or away from it, and how fast you're moving towards or away from it. Okay? So there's logic built into it, very much like the control or the cruise control in your car. So in so doing, it's got that response. It's looking at how it's been responding in your space, but it's also looking at the weather conditions, not just temperature. Is it dark? Is it light? Is it raining? Is it windy? So it's learning what your heat load is in your space or your cooling load. It's learning how your system is going to react based on the outside conditions. So a day like today, which is blustery and dropping in temperature, it's going to turn your heat on sooner than if it was warmer out, like 60 degrees and sunny. Right? It knows it's going to be dropping in the next 4 hours. There's a frontal change coming or whatever. It's going to turn that on. And then again, it's probably not going to let your temperature drop as much during the day when it's 0 out, because it knows it's going to take a longer time to react. It's also going to know that when you selected heat pump, it doesn't want to be dropping the temperature greatly, and then to ramp up to the temperature you want to be, let's turn on the auxiliary heat because you've just lost all the savings you had. Let's make sure the temperature never drops too far that the heat pump can't react to that time, that response time, without turning on the auxiliary heat. Okay? So it does this very smartly. It's thinking about what's going on. It's learning that usage in your space very quickly, within a few days. Okay, so let's look at the SI then. This is the residential SI, which is button-based. So this is a little different to navigate. I'm going to hit the menu button now, and have to use this button wheel over here to move up and down. So I'm going to, when I want to go do the settings, scroll down to the settings menu, hit the OK button, go to the installation settings, and then I can start setting up what kind of equipment I want to do. Hardware-wise, this does 3 heat, 2 cool. It does 2 stages of heat, 2 stages of cool, and fan. That's it. I can do 1 stage of heat pump and 2 stages of backup. I can do 2 stages of heat pump and 1 stage of backup. Okay? No inputs, outputs, no accessories, etc. This one can do 4 heat, 2 cool, and an accessory. Or I can do 2 heat, 2 cool, and 2 accessories. I can do 1 heat, 2 heat, 1 cool, and 3 accessories. Plus up to 6 inputs. Okay? So quite a bit more functionality in the touchscreen than there is in the button. So this one's less expensive. It's less expensive because we don't have the touchscreen. That's probably by far the most expensive aspect is the touchscreen. This one also is Wi-Fi enabled and will show up just like any of the other thermostats in the portal. So all the thermostats I showed you on the portal, did you see which ones were the touchscreen and which ones were the button ones? No, there's no difference, even though I have them identified. As far as the rest of the stuff, the weather forecast right here, it's also on the same stat, just like the touchscreen version. Okay, so let's look at the commercial one. Now I've got up here now is the commercial touchscreen stat. I've got this one right here. Same look and feel as the residential one. A little bit different. Remember we had the program button you hit to look at the program on the residential one? Well, now we've still got a schedule. When I click on the schedule button, it gives me a 2 event per day schedule. We can add multiple events and subtract events, but factory sets too. Same kind of wizard, same look and feel. But I got this button over here now, it's a switch to button. This allows me to switch between occupied and unoccupied modes. So think about this in a commercial application. When you came up in here in this space, if you wanted to turn the temperature up to whatever the occupied temperature would be, I don't know how this one works, but ours, you just walk up and hit the occupied button, and then it goes in the occupied mode. And it will be in that hold pattern until either the next, to how you've set it up. Similar registration process. What's different about the EMS though on the registration is we'll go in, make sure it's connected to the Wi-Fi, and then all you have to do is add the serial number to the portal and it's on. So it's a lot faster installation on the web for the commercial stats. And then the installation settings. Same wizard we talked about before. I'm going to turn this one off. More commercial setting though. There's some automations built in here. I'm going to kind of go into that a little bit. So imagine we've got a packaged rooftop unit, probably 2-stage gas, maybe 2-stage heat, 4-stage gas, pick 2 stages, 2 stages of air conditioning. Wow, I've got a lot more options on my accessory relays now. I can pick an economizer. The occupancy output, what's that mean? What this does is the relay will either open or close based on whether I'm occupied or unoccupied. What can I use that for? Lights? Is that what this was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most common one. Let's think about some realistic ones though for other commercial applications.
Shut down the outside air.
Yep. Makeup air units, exhaust fans in restrooms.
Just the rooftop itself, typical train rooftop or whatever, when it runs at minimum out fresh air.
Right.
It runs at night, there you don't have to run minimum fresh air just to maintain your 60 degrees or whatever.
That's a great point. So we could use that to totally shut down the damper. That's awesome. I learn something every day. So that would be if you had a minimum and maximum settings, and the economizer was running it between the minimum and maximum settings, right? But then the minimum setting is always partially open for some minimum fresh air, 10% or something like that, right? But then you want to close that during unoccupied times. And turn off the exhaust fans in the bathrooms. Or whatever else. Or disable the makeup air unit that's bringing in fresh air, direct fire, etc.
When you say that as an economizer output, it's just an on-off economizer, it's not modulated or anything like that, right?
Right. All of our outputs are discrete binary outputs. So those accessory relays are going to open or close. So on the economizer function, and I'll get into that. Let me do that one again. That's a great lead into that. Whoops. Not doing the heat pump. Let's pick economizer here. Let's pick the occupancy output. And I'll pick a user defined output. Wow, what's this message? I didn't pick one of these relays for my second stage of cooling. Remember, we did 2-stage cooling? So I gotta back up. Oh, I gotta hit that one. So I can't use the user defined function. Economizer active. So what I've got to do is I've got to have an output, dry contact output, that I can either open or close based on when I want my economizer to be enabled. So what we're going to do is enable or disable that. So if you had a 2-position damper, I could use it to open or close the damper.
But it would open on a call for cooling?
Well, we'll get to that. So I'm just talking about the damper control. Or if I had a modulating controller on the thermostat or on the unit itself, with a mixed air damper, mixed air temperature, and it's often opening and closing to bring me 55 or 60 degrees or whatever else. But maybe the customer doesn't always want that to run. How do they decide when that thing turns on and off? There's a selector switch on the economizer control, right? What are my options? A, B, C, and D. C, D. What's that mean? The customer doesn't know what it means. And frankly, I'm not sure anybody really knows what it means. So the customer wants to be able to select a temperature and a humidity on the inside and on the outside, and that's what we offer them. So there's an enable function. So I've got to redo this again because I've been talking too long. Economizer with AC stew, occupancy. All right, I'm not going to pick any of these other inputs. So that's done. I'm picking this relay here to run my economizer. It's not part of the Y function. It's just the economizer enable disable. So now let's go into thresholds. Economy cycle settings. On. I can pick a delta between indoor and outdoor for the temperature operation, a maximum outdoor temperature to have it not open, maximum outdoor humidity, and set point delta, whatever that wants to be. So that's right there on the thermostat to be selected by the user or the operator, and that can be adjusted. It's visible. It can only be done on the thermostat. Can't do it from the web, but it can be adjusted. So a great example is, I got a really good friend. How many people here have been to the Oak and Barrel Brew Pub? Okay, so the guy that owns that, a buddy of mine from childhood, is actually a mechanical engineer, and he worked for Johnson Controls right out of school. So he knows what he's talking about on this stuff. He's got 5 rooftop air handlers there. Juan tells me they've never used the economizers. Never, since he's been there, have the economizers operated. And he's sure that part of the reason they didn't operate was because they didn't work in the first place, or they worked for about a year and then they didn't work anymore. Anybody ever heard that before? Economizer control failing after about a year or two. So that's really why we developed this, because consumers are just tired of having that thing put on there. So what are the options? He just wants to open the damper, full open, for free cooling, and shut it based on the conditions indoors and outdoors. He tells me that when the temperature is above 40 degrees Fahrenheit, his air conditioning is running in his space. So he's running air conditioning most of the time in his space. He'd like to be able to just open that damper up and bring all that raw air in. Even if it's raining outside, 40 degrees, 100% humidity is still a lot better air than what's coming off the coil in normal operation, right? 55 and saturated. So it's not much different, but he's going to set it up so that he can control all that and bring all that fresh air in. He's got significant fuel usage down there, $5,000 a month for fuel, for heating and cool electricity and everything else. So any way he can reduce that, that's just added money to the bottom line for his business. Think about all your other customers. They're looking to add money to their bottom line because they're not getting as much as they used to. They're looking for ways to sharpen the pencil. So that's the commercial EMS. And I didn't show you the automation, so we've got some inputs we can set up. I didn't go through on the installation manual wizard, I didn't go through the sensor inputs. I'm going to kind of blow through here real quick and look at these. Remember those inputs for dry contact inputs? What else could this be? A door switch, carbon monoxide detector, differential pressure switch, anything that's going to have an open or close, right? So that could be used to do something. What would I want it to do? So let's say I've got a carbon monoxide detector. What would I want to do with a carbon monoxide detector?
Open the outside air damper.
Leave.
Call the fire department.
So when that closes, what I want to do, I've got options. Here's my decision tree. I can do all these things. So I might want to activate an output relay to turn on an exhaust fan and send an email alert over and over and over again. So I can send an alert, yes or no. And maybe I want it, what happens when that carbon monoxide detector resets? I might want the fan to run, so I might want to deactivate the delay instead of having it immediately delay. Say I want it to run for, I don't know, well, we'll say an hour after the fact. Just to exhaust any air that's in there. Minimum action duration, I might want to say it's 30 minutes or an hour or something. And then I can add more actions or delete them.
On those dry contacts, can I put in a motion sensor and change those and flip back and forth to occupied, unoccupied based off that motion sensor?
Yep. So it could be a motion sensor, it could be a photo sensor. A big product that's sold in the retail market is a light stat. Have you seen this? It's got a little photo sensor in it. When the photo sensor dies, you have to replace the whole light, the whole thermostat. We do all the same stuff that they can do, and you can add a photo sensor right to this on one of those inputs there. And then that could give you the same functionality as a light stat. And then if this photo sensor dies, you just buy another photo sensor, you don't replace the stats. So when that happens, what would I do? Switch to occupied mode? Is this what you want to do, Mike?
I'm sorry?
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, switch to occupied, yep.
Okay. What else can we do? What happens? So you guys saw this little device that tells me that somebody ripped off my compressor?
Yes, morning watchdog.
I might want to.
Available today.
There you go. Is there a special?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
So, yeah, there's all kinds of things. Adjust temperature. Imagine you got a door switch on a warehouse. The door's open for more than 5 minutes. I might want to adjust the temperature setting down so I'm not overheating the neighborhood. My dad would love to have had one of those. He wouldn't have had to yell at me about heating the whole neighborhood every time I left the door. So there's all kinds of options there. Those options can be triggered by any input. Whether it's a dry contact, a temperature input, can have an upper or lower limit. A humidity or CO2 input could have an upper or lower limit to trigger any of those actions. And you can trigger an unlimited number of actions. So I can have upper temperature do one thing and a lower temperature do another thing, and maybe I can have the dry contact do one event, and then I can have it do something else again and again and again over and over again. There's an unlimited number of activities I can do. I'm sure there's a limit. It's probably the number of registers there are in the processor. I'm not sure. 256, 255, something like that. Okay, so that's that EMS stat. On the EMS-SI, this is the commercial version of the button dude right here. Same as like the residential, except this one does have 2 inputs. The commercial button one has 2 inputs, and they can be universal, either temperature or dry contact. So I could use that for discharge air temperature. I could use another sensor to be door switch or pressure switch to tell me if the fan didn't operate, or end switch on a zone valve, or whatever. Okay?
Will that take an occupancy sensor too, a motion sensor?
Anything that's dry contact
Anything's
or
dry
RTD.
contact. Okay.
And there's 2 inputs, and they can be 2 temperatures, 2 dry contacts, or 1 of each.
Think of how many I could sell, I'm sorry.
Here they are. Mike, right here,
Okay.
in the installation settings. Remember we have different models already identified? So, very similar operation as the residential one, but again, with all the extra functionality. So, I'm hoping everybody can understand that the difference between the residential and the commercial is software. Software on the stack, and software on the web. It's also functionality. You get about 10 times the functionality on this than you do on this. It doesn't cost 10 times as much. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about why we should sell ecobee over the silly Nest thermostat that I'm so tired of hearing about?
Great question. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that. Everybody's seen the Nest, right? Nice product. It's beautiful looking. It sits on your wall, and it does lots of different things, like cycle your HVAC equipment to charge its battery. It's a power robbing thermostat. It further tells everyone why we have been able to develop this whole market. Okay, ecobee developed the Wi-Fi thermostat market. We still think we're the leaders in that. The Nest product kind of copies a lot of what we do. It looks pretty cool. They use a power stealing technology so that they can run on 4 wires if they've got for single stage heat and cool. So there's no common required. What that does is it requires trickle charge to go through it. It might cycle your equipment to keep its little battery charged. So that's an issue. A lot of people complain about that. It also has some motion sensors and things to try to emulate when you're in there or not. A lot of people don't like that. They want to be able to set their schedule. There's no way to set your schedule. It takes about a week to program the Nest. You have to go by, every time you walk by, you're supposed to touch it, do some things. Doesn't really make sense to me. They don't market to contractors, they market to end users, sell it in Lowe's. They used to sell it in Best Buy sent them back. Lowe's contacted us to see if we would like to sell them. We said no, thanks. So they went to Nest. So I guess the big thing to tell you as a contractor is, when you've got a customer asking about it, say, yeah, you know, that's kind of a cool product. We have a product like that too. We have this product here. Actually, this one does everything and more than a Nest does, and it costs less. It's going to work with the HVAC equipment you install, like heat pumps, whereas the Nest didn't. It's just single stage heat, single stage cool. Also, it's got a 3-year warranty that you warranty. So if there's a warranty problem, you're going to handle it because we're going to take care of it with you. You're getting paid for all that. And they don't offer you the contractor portals, which allows you to monitor all your stats. And it's not commercially viable either. So think about your customers and what they want. They want the wow factor of the Wi-Fi and to be able to use their phone or their remote access, which is cool, saves energy. We have all that. They want the energy modeling and the energy savings. We have all that. They want someone to help take care of their place. They don't do that. We do that. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions about that? So the other guy that makes some products like that is Honeywell, and they've got some. They've got a device that plugs into the internet and then wirelessly talks to their thermostat. There's a limit to how many devices you can have on that thing. It's 4, and you have to have all those devices 4 feet apart. So if you're doing them in a commercial application, that may not be a very viable application. Also, it means that now you're tying into the customer's Ethernet connection, and you've got to have a separate piece of product to carry around to make their system work. Ours is ready for the internet right out of the box. No extra modems or things required. They've got Wi-Fi in the space.
And if some of you guys have gone to a commercial building to try to find an extra port in a server room or commercial, they're not always available. You've got to find an extra port with the red one.
What about your range and your Wi-Fi and instructions and stuff in the building?
So that's a good question. So range on Wi-Fi is a function of the Wi-Fi router, much like your cell phone range is a function of the antenna strength. So it's not thermostat. So if you have a large space, you can either use a router that has longer band signal strength, or you can use multiples that talk to each other. So if you go to a hotel, sometimes I'm in hotels far too much. There's sometimes when I go to a hotel, I can see each floor has a different Wi-Fi router on it, or they have one on one end, and one in this wing, and one in this wing. And other times I'll go in, they got one device, and then they'll have a backup. So it just depends.
Online question, on the contractor portal, can the contractor access all the stats they install residentially and commercially, or just on the commercial portal?
It's designed for the residential ones. They can look at alerts. If they want to put the commercial ones on, they can look at the alerts, and they can look at the past 3 days. There's really less of a need for that because the contractor can have full control of the thermostat on his commercial portal. Does that make sense? Did I answer that right? Yeah. So yes, but there's really not a need for it, I guess is the answer in summary. So Honeywell's coming out with a Wi-Fi version of the Vision Pro. Have you seen this? You guys have them in stock? When was the first time you saw one?
First time I saw it was at Home Depot.
I bought one at Home Depot in October. Yeah. Hooked it up. Play with it. It's got the same portal as the RedLink thing. It doesn't let you do anything. You can see the temperature. You can make some adjustments.
Can't schedule.
Can't schedule. You can't see any graphing. You can't see what your energy savings are. You can't do anything.
Got a big age.
It's got a big age.
Got a big age.
A big red H.
Really?
That's it.
Cool. Yeah, so, what we try to let everybody know is, for years we've been providing all this functionality. And there's other people trying to catch up, and they're doing some of it, but it's not just the internet connection, it's all the stuff you do with it, which your users are expecting. So, yeah, so some of the key things to consider is, if you're talking about the Nest or the Honeywell product, what we offer you is all the wow factor and the user functionality the users want of the Nest, plus all the reliability that you're used to with Honeywell, plus a lot of other things that are good for you, because we're not selling those in the store. And then commercially speaking, no one does what we do. You can't get any of that functionality of all that unlimited stuff.
Now are these wireless?
Wireless internet.
Okay, not wireless as far as.
Hardwired thermostat.
Hardwired, okay, that's
Retrofit
what I was
replacement.
thinking about, because I know Honeywell, they're, you know, you can have your furnace in one room and there's that up there, no wires. So you have to run wires.
Yep.
But you could use a wireless relay, right?
Yes, yes, you can, that's right, absolutely. So, we'll probably have some wireless sensors in the near future.
Please don't try it.
What?
But again, this is a product that's made for 80% of all your installations or 90% of all your installations. And the idea is, we'd like you as a contractor to think about, this is a product you should sell on every job. If you can do this on every job, great, because now you have the flexibility to be able to offer extra support for your customer, tie them in for those service agreements. I mean, has it been beneficial for you guys? You've put in several of them.
So far, and they
So-
work fine, and most of mine are on the web, so I can go in and look at the words and stuff when I get them.
That's huge, huh? And are they pretty easy to install?
Oh, they're simple.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I got an interesting, funny story here. When I first met Rick here, I walked into his office and he had a Honeywell Prestige with the red link on his desk. And he had a transformer that he had wired up from a plug on the wall, and he was powering up the transformer to the thermostat, and he was trying to program the thermostat. And he had the manual on his lap, and his face was all red, and he looked like hadn't slept in weeks. He was really, really irritated with this thing. It was really kind of funny. I just said, hey man, I got something that you're gonna like, because this will be easy to do in about 5 minutes. And it didn't take you any time to figure out this whole thing.
Yeah, I hate that at the Honeywell, if you haven't got the book or manual with you, it's like, I gotta go get on my cell phone, go to their website.
How many times did we open the manual today?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have them in the box. You can kneel on them when you're in the basement. Any other questions?
Yes, we have one online.
Okay.
Is the software automatically updated, or do you have to force an update?
It automatically updates with no interaction required by anybody to do anything. No buttons to push, no downloads, etc. It just does it by itself, as long as it's online. And as soon as the thermostat comes online, if it happens to have older software, it will be updated within 24 hours. Yes, Tom?
The one thing that you've pointed out in the past that I think is really interesting is that we often think of a product like this as being high-end, but ecobee can actually see the aggregate of all the thermostats that they have, and I believe you said that 80% of what ecobee sells is on just single-stage heat-cool equipment. So
Yep.
if you're out selling to a homeowner, don't sell them short unless, you know, they don't have to put in a fancy geothermal or dual fuel heat pump. If they just got a standard 80% furnace and a regular air conditioner, everybody wants that connectivity.
There you go. This dude right here. It's really inexpensive. What do you sell these for?
160. 160.
Really? Wow. That's great. 160.
Except for today, we're selling them for $150 if you buy them today at the end of the meeting. Or tomorrow.
Today or tomorrow, $150.
Wow. That's
We just made that.
Tomorrow
up.
morning.
that's
Oh,
amazing.
tomorrow doesn't exist. That is correct.
So you better get them tonight.
They're hot.
Yeah, so this stat right here, this is your everyday stat. I mean, this will do two-stage heat, two-stage cool. It'll do heat pumps. So unless you don't, if you don't need all the other stuff, sell this. We sell 4 to 5 times as many of these as we do these touch screen buttons.
How
So-
much is the commercial?
Well, I appreciate you coming. I hope that hopefully this has been beneficial for you. Learned a few things, and
somebody
that's the
runs
key
down.
thing is I want you to think about as Tom's pushed out here is this should be your everyday thermostat. This should be the stat you sell on 80% of your jobs. You know, if you're selling a super ultra high efficiency, super high SEER, whatever brand XYZ that has the brand XYZ controller, that's fine. Sell that. And if you got a customer that says no, I want the $25 dumb stat that's digital non-programmable, and I don't want anything but, that's fine, they can have that. But for 80% in between, this is it. Think about all those commercial customers who don't have building management systems. Yeah, 80% of all the buildings in the United States don't have energy management systems. Amazing.
We sell those too.
That's right. So
Not
for those jobs where that's a little too